So first and foremost, you're going to see me do a couple things. If you've been listening to my calls, who here has been watching any of my live calls? Has anybody been watching my live calls before? Okay, a couple of you guys. Awesome. So during the live calling sessions, you'll hear me use the script saying that I am the investor, right? I kind of flip-flop a little bit, but I use the I am an investor script. I am not your typical real estate agent. I'm not here to get a bunch of listings. I don't care about listings. It is not my forte. If you're interested in getting more listings, this process can lead to that, of course. However, you will obviously hear from me that, you'll have to adjust a little bit parts of the script here in order to make it more so for getting listings. But this is to do deals. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if it's through listings or not. I don't do that so much. Most of mine is, the deals that I do is 100% off market. Let me just move this over here so I can multitask. Okay, cool. So let's go through this. So first and foremost, at the very beginning, let's say you get a cold call. I always like to say, hey, name. So I'm assuming the person's name. If you're pulling a lead list, you're always going to typically be getting the person's name popped up. It'd be like, hey, Vince, hey, John, right? I'm already assuming their name, okay? And then you want to give it a quick pause because you want to make sure that you are speaking to the correct person. Now, if I get a woman on the phone and it says John, I'm going to say, hey, Miss Smith. I'm going to say, assume their last name. This way, I'm already assuming it's their spouse. That's my typical go-to. If you hear, a woman for a man's name or a man for a woman's name, I'll say, hey, Mr. or Mrs., and I'll make that assumption. Next, you're going to say, let's just say yes. You say, hey, John. They go, yes, this is John. I'm then going to assume that it is, I'm always going to assume that it is the right property owner, okay? I'm never going to be like, oh, wait, just to confirm, do you own this property? No. We don't do that. We're going to go straight to the assumption that they are the correct owner. And we're going to say, hey, John. They're going to say, yes. You're going to say, John, this is Henry with XYZ company. You could say Ironstone Equities, which is like one of my investment companies. I can say EXP Commercial, where I hold my license. Does not matter. Whatever company you are with, right? If you want to call from your brokerage, you'll say, hey, John, this is Henry with EXP Commercial. And the reason for my call is, and you can dive into one of these opening lines, okay? One, I'm working with a client who's going through a 1031 exchange. So I was just curious if you would be totally against selling your property at 123 Main Street. You can add that towards the end of this statement here. At 123 Main Street, and then shut up. I'm going to ask that question, and then I'm going to shut up, okay? Because it is not about, word vomiting all over this person, but the whole purpose of this question is, number one, I'm confirming that it's the owner. I'm saying, hey, John. John has responded, and I'm confirming again towards the end of your property at 123 Main Street. Because when they say, I don't own that property, totally fine. But I'm trying to overcome that right off the bat. The entire intention of the way I do my scripting is I want to get straight to the point. I am not here to beat it around the bush. I'm here to just go straight to the freaking point. So I'm going to say, John, this is Henry. Henry, don't ever say your last name, by the way. There's absolutely no reason for it. And if you have a very long name, I always just recommend giving yourself a nickname. Be straight to the point. And I know sometimes that sounds funny, but I have some people where they have like... Hold on, we are on mute. Let me mute everybody. Thank you so much. So I always like to assume, you say your name, this is Henry with EXP Commercial. The reason for my phone call is I'm working with a client who's going through a 1031 exchange. So I was just curious if you'd be totally against selling your property at 123 Main Street. You can add that towards the end. Or you could say I have a client who's looking to buy another building similar to yours at 123 Main Street. So I was just curious if you'd be totally against selling your property. Or you can add it towards the end. Either way, the whole purpose is say, are you open to selling your property at 123 Main Street, John? Right? Like, I want to make sure that is the correct owner and they are the correct, that is their property that we're speaking about. Okay? There's a whole purpose of my opening line. If you have any questions, by the way, drop it in the chat box down below. I'm hopefully going to have some time for some Q&A at the very end, but you can drop your questions here in the chat. We're going to go through that in just a minute though. You can also shift it if you want to go as an investor, right down here, investor mindset. And you can say, they say, hey, John. John says, yes, this is John. I can say, hey, John, my name is Henry with EXP Commercial, or I can say Ironstone Equities. I can say whatever and say, and I run a local investment company and my partner and I are going through a 1031 exchange. So I was just curious if you'd be totally against selling your property at 123 Main Street. The point is it's direct. It's to the point. I don't care if you're a broker, you're a wholesaler, you're an investor. It does not matter. It's straight to the point. Sarah says, what if they just hang up after your opening line? No problem. So what next? Okay. That is my philosophy. So what next? Thank you and have a nice day. Now, if they confirm, and depending on how good my day is going, sometimes, Sarah, I'm super excited. I'm happy. I'm doing well. I'm excited. I'll call them right back. I'm like, John, you hung up. I'm just curious. I think we got disconnected, John. Let me, I just wanted to give you a quick call back. Either way, totally fine. If you want to just preserve your mindset, it's all about the energy. Right? For me, it's like, hey, look, if they told you to F off or they hung up on you, and you're like, you are in a emotional state of rejection, you probably shouldn't call them back again because they're going to tell you to screw off. But what I will do is that if I'm feeling great and, the rejection doesn't feel anything for me, and I'm feeling good, I got 3 leads already today and I'm on a high, I will 100% give them a call back right away. And then you say, do you give them a call back in 6 months? If it is the correct owner, what we do is we mention them as contact, right? We mark them as contact, and I can call them back any amount of times that I want. Correct. Yeah, I don't think I'd call back in 6 months. You might be able to call them back in 90 days. I probably would. I would not wait 6 months to call them. Rick says, do you text them? If it's a great lead, yes. If it is someone who continues, if it's a good lead, yes, I will text them. We already have a texting campaign that goes out to them. We that's a completely separate call, but we have text campaigns and email campaigns that go out cold to get responses for people just to make sure they are the right phone numbers and emails. Let's keep this going. So let's bring it down to the next part here. If they say no, we just say this, if they're not interested in selling, when a prospect says they're not interested in selling, we don't just throw the lead away. There's no purpose of just throwing the lead away. You know that they're the correct owner. We obviously want to not only, just like Sarah says, we want to call them and follow up with them later down the road about possibly selling, but we can also flip the conversation, right, into a possible buyer. Very, very important. We do this all the time. This is how we've generated thousands and thousands of buyer leads, highly qualified buyer leads, by the way, and you just flip the conversation. No, I'm not looking to sell. Or when they say they're not interested in selling, you say, completely understand. Just curious, right, if you would be totally against buying another property similar to the one you have here at 123 Main Street. And then shut up again. And you want to be quiet and kind of let them respond. Okay? Very important. I think anytime you ask a powerful question, you want to get used to just saying the question and then stop word vomiting. You want to just say the question and then shut up. Very, very important process here. And this is, again, a proven process to generate endless buyer leads, is anybody who says they're not looking to sell, and you can just say, completely understand, just curious if you'd be totally against buying another property similar to the one you have here at 123 Main Street. You can say, okay, I understand that. So just out of curiosity, if I happen to have a great deal similar to the one you have here at 123 Main Street, would you be totally against buying another property? Another great line that you could use. Either one is perfectly fine. Both of these are fantastic questions to shift a seller that's not a property owner who's not interested in selling and flipping them to a buyer. Okay, because we want to make sure that any person you speak to who is the correct property owner, listen guys, if they already own one property in the commercial real estate world, think about it, they're probably going to be interested in buying another good deal. If they just bought a good deal, they might want to buy another one, right? If they own property, they might want to buy another one. So it's very common in the commercial real estate world that people will want to buy another one. Okay, it's not like residential where if someone owns one residential house that they're not more likely than not to buy another one. Okay, in the commercial world, very common, people own multiple properties. Okay, if they say yes, obviously that's a great thing. We want them to say yes. That would be positive. That would be a positive thing for them to say. Then we can say, okay, great. Do you happen to have a price in mind that you'd be open to selling the property for? The reason why we get straight to price is because, again, I want to filter out as many leads as possible as fast as possible. Because if they say to me, I want $10 million for a property that's probably only worth $2 million, the conversation is going to end pretty quickly. But if they say, hey, I'm open to, price somewhere between, 1.8 and $2 million for my property, and I can, you can tell that the property's worth about $2 million, I'm going to spend more time on the phone with this person, right? And obviously, if, getting into underwriting and getting into evaluations and negotiating, that whole process, completely different program, completely different thing. I just want you to understand the whole purpose of mastering the art of cold calling is having the ability, right, to not only have powerful word tracks, which is what is in this script and the whole purpose of us going through these calls and practicing and role playing and learning objection handling, right, at a high level, because we want to sift through the crap and we want to find the best leads in the marketplace, because when you can learn exactly what leads you have the highest likelihood of transacting on versus the leads that you probably won't transact on, that's where the magic happens. Because now we get to spend time with people who we're probably going to make money with versus the BS leads that we're probably not going to ever close, right? And that's the whole purpose here, right? So first thing you're going to go into is like, do you happen to have a price in mind that you'd be open to selling the property for? You get a quick gauge from them. Is this, and some people are going to be like, you called me, I don't have a price in mind. Totally understand. We'll get to that. And you can say, okay, great. Have you ever thought about a price you'd consider the property for, right? Both great questions. You can ask them either one. Very, very powerful questions here. This is a great question to ask, by the way, if they go, I'm not sure. If they say, do you happen to have a price, price in mind? If they respond saying, I'm actually not sure, you can definitely flip it into this and you can say, so, okay, I can respect that. If you sold the property, though, would you be planning on doing a 1031 exchange, or did you have other plans for your money? Another great question here, because this is now leading you to the idea of like, oh, okay, this person is actually also going to be a buyer lead. This could be 2 transactions in one. You want to be able to get a gauge, because if they also say, no, I just want to retire, that's somebody who might be more motivated versus somebody who goes, if I don't get a good price for my property and find another good deal to 1031 exchange my money into, I'm not going to sell. If they say, hey, I'm actually just looking to retire, that person might take a much better price than somebody who's looking to do a 1031 exchange, okay? Because remember, keep in mind that your goal is to get an idea for how much they're willing to sell the property for. Get some details about the property that can back up that price, and then the best contact information to get back in touch with them, to the property owner, while building a level of rapport, trust, and connection. You know why you do this? Because the whole purpose, which again we talk about in other programs, is to then get them an offer, right, as fast as possible. So it's very important we get the price they want, as much information as possible, and then the best contact information to call them back. Because big mistake, what a lot of people do is that they don't get a price from somebody, they just get information, right? They're like, oh, it's a warehouse, a multifamily, a mixed-use building, it's a car wash, it's anything, right? Whatever it is, and they go, they get a little bit of information about it, the square footage, or maybe they barely get even square footage. But then the problem is that they don't get a price that they're willing to sell it for, and they get like their office phone number. Why are you not trying to push harder for a price? Why would you not push harder for more information to back up that price? And why would you not ask for a cell phone number? It's like you want to get the best contact information possible and the most information you can to justify the price that they're looking for. Because the problem is when you don't get enough information, you and I are then assuming that they're a good lead. You ever hear that? The realtor's like, oh, I just spoke with the commercial property. They want, it's a huge 60,000 square foot warehouse. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be like a $10 million sale. Little do you know, they want $50 million for their property, which means they actually have no interest in selling. And now you're going to waste all this time, energy, and effort on trying to sell a property that makes absolutely no sense. And by the way, quick side note, which to give you some value here from other things, if you try to go to an investor and sell them a property that is drastically overpriced, they're going to think you don't know what you're talking about. So, and this is why it's so freaking crucial to understand how you evaluate properties, how to underwrite properties, how to find great off-market leads, because when you can find off-market leads at great prices, you will always make great money. Period. End of story. Let's keep it going. Okay, asking detailed property questions, which we're actually going to get into here. So asset-based property detail questions, okay? Very, very important. If it's industrial, you can see here on page 6, you have plenty of questions you can dive into. How many tenants, the drive-ins, loading docks, ceiling heights, vacancies, are they triple net? I mean, we can go on and on and on here. Retail properties, you can dive into a lot of the similar type of questions. They're all over here. Multifamily questions, you can ask about how many, the unit breakdown, how many units are there, who pays the utilities, any renovate. I mean, like every type of property question you can imagine, triple net lease properties, office properties, I mean, so on and so forth. What I think is so freaking crucial for you guys to think about here is the following, right? So let me see if I can do here. Before hanging up, great. So before hanging up, let's talk about a few things. Before hanging up, again, you want to clarify the contact information, right? So use the last few moments on the phone call to clarify next steps, and the next time you will speak to them. If it's a hot lead, you want to book a call from a call. Alex Hormozy talks about BAM fam, right? Book a meeting from a meeting. I'm talking about backfac. Book a call from a call. Okay, so you want to have the next call booked on your calendar with this individual from the first call. So if it's a good lead or a bad, ideally, we're only talking about good leads for a minute here. If it's a good lead and you should be talking to this person again, great. You want to book the next phone call from that call. And so as promised, I'll shoot you a text with my contact information, and I'll send you a quick email to respond to, so you can respond with the financials. This is just an example of what you could say, if they're going to be like, oh, I'll send you financials. Great. So as promised, I'll send you an email with my company information. And like you said you would, please forward. I love using this line. Like you said you would. Or I like saying this, as I promised I would, I'll send you over the email, or you can send it with I already sent over my email, the email with my company information. And like you said you would, please forward over the financials so I can review it with my client, or so I can review it by myself, obviously, if you're the investor. Or here, so as promised, I'll forward over the info and confirming our appointment at your property at 123 Main Street. I look forward to meeting you again Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, okay? But you always want to confirm all the details. So as promised, I'll send over my contact information via text message. I'll follow up with you on X date, and this time to clarify what you're going to do for them, next steps, and all that kind of thing, right? Very, 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 very important. And then here you go. Last thing here. After you've already hung up, okay, this is on Mojo Dialer, on Call Tools, any dialer that you're already doing. Yeah, Jing Zhang, I already dropped these in the chat. Hold on, I can do it again. Give me 1 minute. You're on your dialer. What I like to do this, confirm that you've hung up the phone and muted your phone, and don't ever make this mistake. I've done this before in my career, obviously. What I like to do is immediately complete all your notes and make sure everything in your CRM is updated. I don't like to move on to the next dial, the next call, the next anything until I've updated all information in my CRM system. I think it's way more important that all the information is updated in your CRM system before you move on. Very, very important here. And I like to make sure it's in my CRM. They're on a campaign. It's all taken care of, right? Before then, I can jump right back into the dialer. And obviously, what you can see here is you can see some different types of what your schedule will look like. Just to give you an idea, daily schedule for a commercial real estate agent, hour by hour. You can break it all down here. Gives you kind of different, an idea. This here, by the way, I like to look at this as now. This is offer generation. This is the new term we've called for it for 2 to 8 p.m. is offer gen, getting offers on deals, right? You have lead gen in the morning, right? Right here, lead generation in the morning, and then you have offer generation in the afternoon, right? Commercial real estate's very simple. It'll kind of break it down for you right here. What I'd also like to do here, I'm going to stop sharing for a second, is I'm going to take some time. Now we've kind of broken down, the scripting techniques and a couple opening lines that will help you out. Let's dive into some objection handling. Who's got some objections that you guys get on a regular basis? If anyone has any objections, you can either write it in the chat below, or you can come off mute and you can raise your virtual hand. We'll dive into some objections. I'm never going to sell. So when someone says, by the way, they're never going to sell, what's so freaking fascinating to me is that if you take a 30,000 foot view, let's say all of us right now are CEOs of our business together. We are partners in business together. Think about it like this. Read between the lines, people, when someone says, I'm never going to sell. Us as real estate brokers, what we are is we are facilitators when sales occur. I'm not here to convince people to sell if they don't want to sell. I could care less if they don't want to sell. If you don't want to sell, fantastic. Thanks. Have a nice day. I'll talk to you in 6 months, 90 days, 2 years. I don't care. I'll put you on a 5-year campaign, and I'll follow up with you when you're ready to sell. But if they're ready to sell, hello, my name is Henry. Nice to meet you. And we'll dive in and try to do some business. Let's keep going. The cap rate compressions. Okay, I already have an agent. Great. Would that stop you from doing business with me today? Great comeback immediately. And you got to be sharp, by the way. When people have objections, you got to be like, guys, I'm not even kidding you. It's like the freaking boxing matches, okay? This is not some Logan Paul, Mike Tyson bullshit. This is a real freaking thing that's not freaking rigged by any means, okay? This is like real deal type of boxing match, okay? Where you got to be freaking prepared in the moment right now to fight. So when they're swinging, you got to be right back with that objection. So say, look, I already have an agent. I can totally respect that. Just out of curiosity, that wouldn't hold you back from doing some business with me, would it? That wouldn't stop you from doing business with me. That wouldn't stop you from accepting that wouldn't stop you from accepting a top dollar offer with great terms, would it? You need to be prepared with it, which is why I think it's so powerful to have all of you guys on this right now. Guys, you have 27 people who are live with us right now. Every single person who's live right now is a person you could be role-playing with. I have nowhere to move to. Prices are expensive. I'll just sell and move into another property that's more expensive. You're right. Would that stop you from buying would that stop you from buying your dream home? If they say again, I'm just going to move into a more expensive property. You're right. You're not going to say you're wrong or it's not going to be more expensive. 100% I agree with you. But are you currently living in your dream home? That wouldn't stop you from buying a dream home, would it? Let's keep going. I don't want to sell because I'll have to find another cash cow like this. The rates are too high. When someone says, I'll have to find another cash cow or anything like that, it'd be like, okay, let me just hear you correctly. Look, I hear you, and obviously you found a fantastic investment. But just curious, do you feel like you're getting the best return on your money at this time? Like, do you believe your asset is truly going to go up in value substantially over the next 5 or 10 years? Or have you squeezed the juice out of this property right now? Because what I'm trying to get them to think about is like, hey, if they have owned this property for 5 years, okay, curious, how long have you owned this property? I've owned it for 20 years. Okay, do you think you're going to get the same type of return if you hold it for the next 20 years? Or if you hypothetically took the cash now and moved it into another asset that you could do some value add to and then start to build up some cash flow like you did previously? Because think about it. If you have, let's just say you have a property right now and you have $1 million sitting in a property, okay? You have $1 million sitting in a property. property. Here's the craziest shit. If you have $1 million stuck in a property and you're making, let's just say, $100,000 a year right now in cash flow because they don't have any mortgage on it. They're making $100,000 in cash flow. You're making 10% on your money a year. That's good. However, what you could be doing is you could be buying a $3 million asset, right? You could flip that money into a $3 million asset, sell the $1 million deal, take $1 million, buy a $3 million asset that could be worth $4 to $5 million in the future. No, you will not be making 10% a year on your money, cash on cash. But what you will do is that you will take $1 million and you will turn it into $2 to $3 million, which is way better than 10% cash on cash in the bank, which is basically what you're doing. You're parking money in a property, okay? And you have to explain this sometimes to the individual. Very, very, very important. Let's keep it going. I just signed a tenant for a 5 or 10 year lease, industrial, okay? You just signed a lease. If that's an objection, I'll say this. Would you be totally against selling the property to find another building that you could lease up and make some money on? If you can make a great profit today, would you be totally against that idea? Keep in mind that, like, what happens is people need to be led. Most people want to be led. You have to guide people. That's what we are fiduciaries in some regard to people, and you need to guide them and lead them to this new path, down this new path that will get them the results that they want. Okay, because sometimes people don't know what the heck they want. Sarah says, I don't want to sell because I would have to 1031 exchange into another property. I agree with you. 100% you would. But guess what? I mean, like we just explained, well, you can say to them, like we just talked about, how long have you owned this property for? Well, I've owned it for 5 years. Okay, great. How much do you have a mortgage on this property? Yes. Because what I want to break down for you is, like, if you could make more money owning another piece of real estate and make profit on your current one, would you be totally against selling it? Because what happens is that these people don't realize that they could be making more money with another property. They could take profits and they can make more money on another property. You can say to them, okay, I can understand that, but just curious, if we could find you a property that you could have somewhat similar cash flow, maybe a little bit less management, and you get a massive tax write-off day one, right? That where you maybe don't have to pay any taxes for the next year, 2 or 3, depending on your income, right? Would that be something you'd be totally against taking a look at, right? You can literally help them 1031 exchange into another property. That could be the same exact type of property, and they could do a cost segregation study day one, and they can get a fat tax write-off immediately.